All right, well, it is time for this episode's interview. And today I have on SGX coach Adam Holt. And normally I read through our guest's bio, but honestly, I think I wouldn't be doing it a good service to just read this. And honestly, that's a lot of why I wanted to have you on here and talk today, Coach, is to kind of go over your story and where this led you. So first off, thanks for joining me. I'm excited to have you on here, and it's
Of
gonna be
course, thanks.
fun. Yeah. So you're on the road right now. So let our listeners know what you're doing and how I interrupted you from your vacation right now.
I am. So we try every July. We're based out of Texas, and it is like the seventh circle of hell in July. And so we pause all that we do in July, and my family sort of takes a road trip, and we are taking an epic road trip around the Western states. About 4 weeks we'll be on the road together, just sort of getting to know each other, visiting some other gyms that are doing what we're doing, and doing the Spartan Ultra in Utah. So it's a pretty packed month.
Awesome. It's going to be fun. Nice way to get a Spartan race in there too with the family trip. We try and do that whenever possible as well.
It is, yeah. It's a good excuse to get away and do something you love. Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, I appreciate it. I know we were supposed to chat last week, and I had some scheduling issues, so I'm glad this worked out, and
It's always good.
and we can make it all work. Yeah. So like I said, I didn't want to read your bio because there's just so much in here, and I know you're going to do a way better job telling your story than I will, and that's honestly why I wanted to have you on, was to let our listeners know about your story, what you've gone through, and kind of what has grown from all of this. And I just think it's so cool to share this and let other people know about what you're doing. So let's kind of, I guess, start at the beginning and kind of how how all this came about. And I don't even know the best place to start, so I'm going to leave that to you to kind of to lead into it.
Well, I don't either, but athletics has always fitness has always been a big part of my life. Even in college, I went to Texas A&M. I was on the triathlon team there. When I was in the Army, I was doing 10 milers for the Army and things like that. And so fitness has always been a part of my life. But it hasn't really defined who I am. It was just sort of expected of me. And so it's interesting to see how big of a part of my life it is now, and sort of everything I do revolves around it. And I never would have thought of that because I like ice cream way too much.
Same
But
here.
so my story starts. I grew up in San Antonio. I had a great childhood. I mean, my parents were strict and they worked a lot, but looking back, I really see that my parents did love me. They just didn't sort of love me the way I needed to. But they were amazing parents. And to this day, like I can't thank them enough for all the things that they do. But somewhere in there, I had a little discomfort, I guess, in the human condition. And even early in high school, I started sort of drinking and doing things that took me outside of myself in the way I felt. And that sort of was the overarching theme of my life for maybe 15 years. I was just sort of going through life, if there's such thing as a functional drug addict. And I was showing up, I was doing okay. I was holding jobs. I was, being an okay person, but on the inside, I was just, man, I was dark and I was hurting and I was alone. And I noticed at an early age, like one of the few things that sort of made me happy was running track in high school or doing triathlon stuff. And so I sort of continued to gravitate towards that, but that was a really hard thing to juggle. So when I went to Texas A&M, I was still into sports. I wanted to open a gym as long as I can remember. So I majored in sport management. I was on the triathlon team. And then I joined the military after college. I was enlisted while I was in college, but then I went active duty when I got out. And that was such a great opportunity. I was commissioned. I got to lead some amazing soldiers. I deployed for 12 months to Afghanistan. And then when I got back, man, things really started to spiral out. I had this sort of drug usage for so long. And then that coupled with some things that happened overseas and just the discomfort of life and having to be back. Within 3 years of returning home from Afghanistan, I was homeless, estranged from my family, divorced, um, been to 3 rehabs, multiple inpatient psych facilities, and just in a really, really dark place. Um, yeah, that was a really dark place. Like it's the darkness of a soul that is difficult to understand. But I think most people have sort of experienced a little bit of that. You know, you wake up and you feel lonely, and you don't really have anybody to confide into. And so, a real extreme version of that. Um, and so through that journey, after I started the process of recovery and addiction, I got housed in this apartment. This organization in Austin got me housed. And literally 20 feet outside of my front door, on the other side of my parking spot, was this dark, grungy gym called Big Tex Gym, and the weights were from like 1960, and they were all iron, and I mean the machines were just chains, and it was a pretty heavy place. But I went there every single time I wanted to use. I went there and I hit a tire, I flipped a tire, and somehow managed to stay sober for a little bit. And then I did my first Spartan race, and that's when it sort of really clicked. Seeing that, holy moly, I can do these things. Like I come up to an 8-foot wall, you know, and I can get over it. I have to lift this 150-pound sandbag on a hoist, and I can actually do it. And so seeing that, that's how I sort of got into Spartan races, just seeing those obstacles and how you can overcome those, and how it just so relates to life. You don't have to be good. You don't have to do it perfectly or be fast. You do it, you know? And ever since then, it's just sort of been one thing after another, leading to this journey where I now run a nonprofit that trains people for free for Spartan races, gives them free Spartan races, and creates a community, so that people can try and stay sober.
That's so awesome, and I want to talk a lot more about that. So to make sure everybody listening knows that there is this program and potentially others like it. This, chatting with you is the first time I heard of it, so I'm super excited that there are programs out this, because it was just something I wasn't aware of. And I just think it's, first, thank you for sharing your story, because I know it's probably hard to go back to some of those places and recreate this. But at the same time, this whole thing you've created is kind of showing people that, yeah, you can go from these pretty bad places and good can come from it. And who knows what could have happened, but this is the path that you chose, and you decided to go down. And it's amazing that, thinking fitness, a lot of people think, or fitness is great for your body, right? It's a healthy thing, and it's all these good things come of it. But there's so much more, right? There's so much more to it, and how just mentally it can, you were able to, change a habit, basically, right? Where it's a lot of times when, it could be an addiction or whatever it is, people think so hard on that thing, and how do I stop doing this? And it sounds like that you found something else to fill that void. And I think a lot of people can take something from that.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, by now, everybody knows the mental, the emotional, the physical benefits of exercise and physical activity, on mood, on depression, on everything. But, and it's just, I mean, it's amazing. Even philosophers have said that physical activity is the best medicine,
Mhm.
But through my journey, so one of the cool things that I've gotten the chance to do is, shortly after I got sober, I got the chance to go to the University of Texas, do some research there with some amazing researchers around the nation, just like neuroscientists, physical therapists, just a lot of great people. And we did some brain scans of people in early recovery. And so the biggest thing about addiction or even depression is the fact that your brain isn't producing enough dopamine. And so we know that to be true. But one of the other things, once you sort of mitigate that through other ways, especially through alcohol or drug use, your brain then stops. With drug use, your brain is receiving so much additional dopamine that it's not supposed to. With methamphetamine, it's up to 1,200 times the natural limit of dopamine. I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, just pleasure no one else should feel, which is why they're so addictive. Um, and so what your brain, it's really, really awesome. It actually shuts down those receivers. So even though there's all this dopamine in your brain can't receive the dopamine as a way to sort of protect your central nervous system, which is awesome. But then once you get sober, not only are you not producing enough dopamine, but we've recently found out that you're not receiving enough dopamine. So even if you go out and you have an awesome meal that's supposed to make you happy, or if you skydive, or if you, just do something that's supposed to be a lot of fun, your brain isn't going to receive it as fun because you only have about half of your dopamine receptors going in the first 18 months of recovery. And so, man, a lot of people relapse, especially, they just fall into this deep depression because they can't feel pleasure. And so one thing that was super cool that we found out was physical activity is one of the only things that we tested that could increase the availability of those dopamine receptors in the first 18 months. So like what that means is not only does physical activity is good for you, but it also helps you get back to this normal state of mind. And we haven't found anything else that can do that. It's really, really pretty amazing.
That's amazing, because I was going to ask, like, did you guys find, so it's something that is at least partially reversible, where
Yeah.
you're getting flooded with this dopamine, and becoming desensitized to it essentially, and we can bring it back though, and physical activity is one of the, maybe the only way that we know of that
Well,
that can do
it'll
that.
happen over time,
Yeah.
your brain will readapt to it, but physical activity actually helps reanimate those cells quicker. So we're seeing people coming back to full dopamine availability in 6 months rather than 18 months, which that's a year difference. If you're thinking about going through a whole year without feeling anything that's pleasurable, man, what kind of life would that be?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. And I mean, that makes sense, because I know there is a lot of research on, just depression in general, looking at
Mhm.
exercise as a treatment versus medication. And
Yeah.
obviously both can play a role, but they're finding how strong that exercise portion, and potentially could be even more powerful than medication in some
Yeah.
situations, which is pretty
Really,
awesome.
it's like God gave us this cure all, you get community, you get the mental benefits, the physical benefits. It's just, man, it's hard to do, but it's worth it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I'm curious, were there any, I don't know if you looked at this, but any specific type of activity, more resistance training, aerobic, just moving? Was that anything that you looked at just to see any differences there?
Yeah, so we found the greatest benefit was with moderate to light vigorous activity. So not walking is great, yoga is great, meditation is great, of course, and those have different psychological benefits. But what we found was, running, like a perceived exertion of 4, 5, or 6, is where people found the most benefit. Anything too hard and it really sort of put a drain on the central nervous system, and anything too light, there just wasn't enough effort to flood the brain with the chemicals needed.
Correct. Yeah, and it just again shows that all forms of exercise have those specific good things that they're good at, and knowing, I know a lot of people have the mentality, it's more is better, right? Just got to go crush it every single workout, and sometimes there's a place for that, but we have all these other benefits. So
I
that's
used to
just
suffer from that quite a
interesting.
bit. I understand.
Yeah,
Mhm.
awesome. And I'm, just something that kind of popped into my head, that I've seen some read a few things on, that we can do too much, kind of what we're talking about here. But if we can get a dopamine response from exercise in general, just working out, and you get that response. I know I've seen some people where we can even take that too far, right? Where you get addicted to exercise. And it might sound like that, well, that's a good thing, right? But I've seen it where that can be a bad thing too. And it's this idea of, I know people don't like cliches and everything in moderation, but um, same idea there, where people, they become so reliant on that, getting that fix from their exercise, that anything else doesn't seem to do it for them. So I don't know, I thought it was worth bringing up to say,
No, that's a
there's
great
a
point.
balance.
And so we're really purposeful. So my organization is called Outsiders Anonymous. Up into hopefully this next month, we've been doing everything outdoors, which that's the Outsiders Anonymous. And so we're hoping to move into a warehouse here in the next couple months, so that we'll be able to do some classes indoors. But one thing that we're real purposeful about is that we don't have classes every day. We don't let people come to classes twice a day. And generally we'll have a social event every week that has ice cream or snow cones or something else one of our sponsors will provide. So, it's not about competition. It's not about who can have the PR. It's not about your time at a Spartan race. It's about the community and the relationships that you create, not only with yourself, but with other people as well.
That's awesome. And that's a great way to kind of moderate it, right? Where you kind of keep people in check a little bit, because they can, I think a lot of us, and probably a lot of our listeners, are guilty of at some point where they know they shouldn't be doing so much and they do it anyway, and kind of, usually pay for it in some form. All of a
Oh, I
sudden
was like
you're
that for a long time. My wife would know. She's like, have you ran today? Have you worked out today? I'm like, no, I haven't. I think I've gotten
Absolutely.
past that, though. It's hard
Yeah,
to
yeah.
moderate.
Sure, absolutely. But that, I mean, it's great to have a program or a coach that basically tells you, do this, don't do this, and try and stick to the plan.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, a lot of coaches really, a lot of programs are performance based, and we are definitely not that. I don't have a six pack. Nobody we work with is going in the age group finals. We really want our SGX training to um, complement life, and be a
yeah,
part of it, not be life.
absolutely. Awesome. So I'd love to learn, so how exactly does this program work?
Yeah, so we've sort of taken a different stance. When we first started back in 2017, we were with a gym, and that gym has since gone out of business, and so we've kept going. Corona was really hard, and so basically, it sounds a lot fancier than it actually is. We have a nonprofit that provides free fitness training. Really, it's me at a park with some kettlebells and some jump ropes.
Oh,
So we'll show up. We have about 4 classes a week. We have one SGX specific class that has up to 2 miles of running. And then we have 2 functional fitness classes, CrossFit without the affiliation. And then we
mhm.
have a strength class where we actually use barbells and bumper plates at a park. Really cool. I've never seen anything like it before. And so we just go out there. People show up when they want to. The only thing that we require is a 24-hour sobriety. If somebody wants to come out and they're not, if they don't have 24-hour sobriety, they can come hang out with us. It's a safe place to be. You don't have to be in recovery to be a part of our organization and to come work out with us. It's actually encouraged that people that aren't in recovery come work out with us. I mean, essentially, it's a free workout for anybody who wants to support a sober or active community. And so the big thing that we are trying to do is not only providing this fitness training for people in recovery that don't know what they're doing, or don't have the knowledge or the equipment, but we also want to get them into a community outside of the 12-step room so people can be a part of people that aren't in recovery, and they can be a part of community with people that care about them. So really, the fitness, of course, there's a biological component to it, but it's just sort of an excuse to get together and hang out.
Oh, that's awesome. And that makes total sense to have, a mix of people there to help support each other. And I'm sure the support goes both ways, right? Having, just such a wide range of people, everybody brings their baggage, right? Everybody has their issues, and
Yes.
um, being able to share this common goal or just thing you enjoy, and kind of work out together, and all grow from it. So that's amazing. So how do people find out about you, in your area? Like, how are you guys marketing? Is it just you're part of groups? What does that entail?
Yeah, a little bit. So I just finished up my MBA at St. Edward's, so I am trying my best to market it myself. But I realize, man, marketers are they are very important people. So right now we're doing a few things. We're advertising in local newspapers, and we're going to events and things like that. We also put on. Last year, we started a series of 5 races. And so we do a 5K, a 10K, an OCR, a 10 miler, and a half marathon. And so that's our biggest fundraiser. And that's the way we sort of engage the community and let them know that we exist. Other than that, though, it's mostly word of mouth as of right now, but we're starting to get into more marketing. So we recently started a for-profit business, the Unbranded Fitness, and what we do is we we sort of spy on the competitors, and we buy direct from their suppliers, and then we sell the exact equipment that they do, just without the name. And so that actually funds what we do. And that's another way that people find out about us, because 100% of those profits go directly towards Outsiders Anonymous. But that organization, that company is going to have a warehouse next month. And so
Awesome.
once we have that, we'll be able to start getting people to come to us, and we'll start being able to market ourselves as the first free gym in Texas, free to anybody in recovery, anybody that wants to support that. So once we get in a facility, we'll be able to market more traditionally, I guess you could say.
Awesome. And what was the name of the company that you
Yeah,
that-
unbranded fitness.
Unbranded Fitness? Okay.
Yeah,
And what's the website? Do you have a website for that company?
we do. It's theunbrandedfitness.com. It is
Okay.
not up and running just yet.
Okay. All right. At least have it,
We
and
are
I'll
brand new.
I'll put it. I'm just making notes I'll put it in the show notes, so whenever people are listening to this, if it's available, they can check it out,
I
because
appreciate that.
obviously it's all supporting an incredible cause. So
Well, I mean, fitness equipment is expensive,
it
And so
is.
when we were
Yeah.
starting to do this, we learned that people, especially early in recovery, people don't have fitness equipment, and they don't have the
Mhm.
knowledge, but people really, really, really want to be able to be active, and they want to be a
Yeah.
part of a community. And so, finding how to get the equipment on a nonprofit budget just sort of led to one thing to another. And here we are.
Yeah. Awesome. Have you, and this may be a thought, may not be, but are you, plans to expand, other people, other states, helping you organize something like that? Is that something that you've been thinking about?
So there's an organization called the Phoenix. It is, basically the inspiration for what we do. Their headquarters are here in Colorado, actually. So one of the reasons we came here is to sort of tour what they're doing, and they've been doing what we are doing since 2006 or 9, I believe. And so we took their model and just brought it to Texas.
Okay.
And so I think there are organizations around the nation that are starting to do what we're doing. And so I don't know if we'll expand anywhere. We're still new. But I do think it's important that something like this happens different places, so that people can see the benefit of it, so that people can see um, how fitness and how Spartan races, how OCRs, Tough Mudders, how all these things can really help them beyond just going to a gym.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, it's kind of one of those things. I think the more the better, probably. There's a lot of people in this country, well, in the world, but and a lot of people that do need help, and where something like this would be a great fit. And only so many companies can reach so many people. So the more out there, it's just more opportunities for people to get access to a really cool program like this.
Yeah, I think so.
All right. So just to kind of close up a little bit here, anything that I forgot to ask you or talk about that you wanted to bring up and let our listeners know about?
Um, I don't think so. I really appreciate the opportunity. I am um, I am not a very public person, but what we're doing is really, really important, and um, we go into rehabs and we do these things, and it's, of course, it's beneficial for people that are struggling, but it's also important that people that aren't be a part of these communities, to be able to provide support for that. And I think Spartan Races, I think what the SGX coaches are doing is just phenomenal. It's a lot easier to do something like this than it is to go do CrossFit or to go lift weights, because there's a community aspect to it. And I think that's the most important thing that SGX coaches and that Spartan can provide. It's incredible.
Absolutely. And just to kind of retouch on, kind of telling your story, even those that maybe they're not suffering from addiction, or it's not directly hitting them. Kind of like you said, you were able to get through and do a lot, even though you were battling these demons. And I think that goes for a lot of people, where sometimes we just don't know. We don't know people's situations, and they could be our friends and close to
Mhm.
us and family members. So I just think knowing about programs like these, even if it's not something you personally may need, there's a good chance somebody in your life is going to be going through something, that just being able to help out, even if it's just you working out with them and showing them about, a Spartan race or whatever it is, or just letting them know there's programs out there like this.
Yeah, I mean, if any of your listeners are struggling in a way that, only they understand, I, you're not. I want them to know that they're not alone. I'm sure my contact information will be, somewhere in the description. I would love for them to reach out to me. I'll train them. I'll talk to them. I'll send them free kettlebells. The most important thing, I think the reason we all do what we do in life is to be happy and to be a part of something. And so if somebody out there isn't experiencing either of those, and you don't know where to turn, I mean, please reach out to me. I would love that. And I would love to be a resource for you.
So, and we definitely will put your websites and any info you're willing to share.
Great.
I will definitely put in the show notes. So if anybody wants to reach out, they absolutely can. Um, all right, last thing though, before I let you go, so you have an ultra coming up. Is this your first one? Have you done a
It
few?
is. Well, I did Tough Mudders. I did World's Toughest Mudder virtually last year. And so
Okay.
I'm confident I can slog through it, but when I saw the 3 Spartan shields for the terrain and the elevation, I got a little anxious. But it is my first Spartan Ultra. I am super excited, and then the next day, my son is doing his first kids race, and so it is
Oh,
going to
awesome.
be. Oh, it's going to be such a great weekend. It really
That's
is.
awesome. Cool. Well, I'm glad to hear that the kids race is there, because I haven't seen really any of them yet. They keep
Yeah, I
pushing them
think it's
back.
the
So
first one, maybe. I
okay.
think.
Awesome. Well, good. So hopefully you guys both have great races, and hopefully it's
I
not
hope
too
so.
hot out there.
I've been listening to past episodes of your podcast for getting tips for those ultras. So
All right. I hope they help. It's,
they do.
it's
I
always
didn't
going to
know
be
a thing about the
uncomfortable.
buckets until I listened. So
All right. All right. Good. Well, good. I'm glad that at least that one thing helped. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your story and letting our listeners know about all of this.
of course, Mike, I really appreciate the opportunity. Thank you so much.